And we are live. Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
And if this is your first time listening, this is a podcast in which we assign each other a piece of content, engage with it for the week, and then come back to this podcast, talk about it, give a little summary, ask questions, provide facts, just do a full deep dive into that content, and then we assign another piece and we keep going. So before we like to dive into the content, we give our news life update at the beginning. So before we get going, let's have you start. What is new on the Aaliyah front?
Quick question. How come we don't do music in the intro anymore? We did it for like one episode and I liked it.
It's a complicated question. So the platform that we post through provided music for us to kind of stitch in as desired, but then the platform decided to partner with somebody else that you can record your podcast through. So basically the tool that they used is that had all of those songs that we could use, that we used for like an episode or two. They got rid of it. So now we don't have the music, and we could record through that other platform, but
Well, how come we can't just find royalty-free music?
We can find royalty-free music. We just need to sit down and do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the short answer.
Gotcha.
Well, that's the whole answer. Yeah.
Okay. I just thought about that. Sorry. Anyways, back to life updates. Life updates, not much going on. But in terms of content, I watched quite a few movies this weekend. I've been feeling like trash this weekend. It's that time of the month for me. I have cramps, my allergies. It's just rough here. So I stayed home and did nothing. Except I did everything because I watched 5 movies. So I'm going to give a quick and dirty rundown of those movies. Try and like speed go through this.
Speed review.
Yeah. So first I watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. I absolutely love this series. This one is about the family going to Greece to give their belated father's diary to his friends. This one was quite chaotic and not in a great way because like I feel like her family, Tula's family, is pretty chaotic in general, but
That sounds like a sequel just for the sake of making one.
yeah, I mean the first and second I absolutely love. Like the second one's pretty good too. But yeah, this third one was just kind of all over the place. I wasn't quite like, you have your underlying plot, which like I said was, you know, the dad getting the dad's diary to his friends, but then there were like 50 million other things going on and it was just very confusing. So not my favorite. The second, I watched Priscilla, which is basically another Elvis story, but from the perspective of Priscilla.
Is that his wife?
Yes.
Oh.
And this,
Like the 15-year-old?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So what I did like about this movie is that it does very much so point out the fact that she was so young, and kind of like pokes at, you know, why was he interested in her? Like, what were their dynamics? Did he have this kind of like power over her type of thing, which I thought was quite good to point out. It was a little boring. But I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more than I liked the Elvis movie with Austin Butler. I think Jacob Elordi did a fantastic job as Elvis. I think he was
Jacob Elordi was Elvis in this
Jacob
movie?
Elordi was Elvis,
Wow.
and I think he was a better Elvis, not gonna lie.
Interesting.
It
Well,
felt
it doesn't
more
sound like he's
natural.
getting nominated anytime soon or anything.
No, it just felt more natural than Austin Butler's Elvis. I mean, the story was not meant to be about Elvis, you know, it's about Priscilla, so.
So Jacob's not about to be giving interviews like, and Jacob.
And Jacob. No, not at all. So I'll give him credit for that. I also watched Five Nights at Freddy's. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's based on a game that's basically like killer Chuck E. Cheese like animatronics.
Yeah, it's like a point and click horror game.
Yeah. Very, very bad movie. I absolutely loved seeing my baby Josh Hutcherson. Love him, but like this movie was absolute trash. I don't even know that I would recommend. It's streaming for free. I don't even know I recommend you sit down and watch it for free. It's just terrible.
It's just bad?
It's just bad.
Wow.
It's very bad. I watched Strays, which is basically like a rated R version of Beverly Hills Chihuahua, if you're familiar with that kids movie.
That sounds great.
Yeah. It follows a bunch of stray dogs. The main dog is voiced by Will Ferrell. It was okay. There were parts that were like kind of funny, but then the rest, I don't know. I feel like I don't dislike dirty humor, but it needs to be done well. And I don't know that this did it well. It feels like just saying stuff because like, it's dirty. It's a dirty joke, you know? So I don't know about it. Last movie I watched was Anyone But You, which is with Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney. It's an enemies to lovers plot centered around a wedding, which like are my least favorite books. It's just because there's so many books that are enemies to lovers dealing with weddings. And so I just feel like it's so overdone. But surprisingly, I didn't hate this movie. It wasn't great, but for a modern day rom-com, which we have so few that like are good, I would say none are good except for Crazy Rich Asians. This one was like pretty decent. Like I would watch it again. So yeah. And then the last thing I want to talk about was just games, and one game in particular. We started playing Princess Peach Showtime. I am loving it so much. I feel like I'm almost through the game.
Yeah, you probably are. I think it's only like an 8-hour game.
Yeah, I think I'm almost through with it. I will probably go back and like do better on the rounds that I like did terrible in. But yeah, it's just so freaking cute. Like I love all her different personas and the different outfits and like the different kind of game mechanics for each one. And there's puzzles, there's like action. It's like all these different things wrapped into one. And they literally said, what would Aaliyah like in a game?
Yeah.
This was it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I see people talking about the game online, and there's two groups. There's the groups that are like a bit more hardcore gamers. They wanted a little bit more out of the game. And then there's like people like you who are just like absolutely in love with it because they didn't want something hardcore. They just wanted, you know, Princess Peach having fun, doing a variety of things. And it's like I see a lot of comments saying like, wow, my 9-year-old daughter is enamored with it and won't put it down. So, and that's a wonderful thing.
I am that 9-year-old daughter.
Right. I love that.
Like same.
I love that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I bought it too. I stopped playing it after a few hours to play something else. I'll finish it too, given it's short. But I mean, I'm a little bit on that hardcore side, but I'm not critical of the game like maybe some other people are. I think it's worth playing. I think it's got a lot of merit, and I love that it appeals to a specific audience so well.
Yeah. I think everything that I disliked about Luigi's Mansion, like all the things that I was like, I wish it did this, I wish it did this, I wish it did this, all of those components are in this game.
I definitely like it more than Luigi's Mansion 3 for sure. Like that's easy, because to me, Luigi's Mansion 3 just got like so repetitive.
Yeah.
And this, even though it's not that complicated, it's changing up how you play the game pretty much in every level, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like the repeats where like you repeat what the type of Peach you are, like, you know, you might do Ninja Peach in 3 different rooms or whatever, but like even those are different. Like it's the same, like, oh, you remember the mechanics of this, but like let's throw a new environment at you, let's throw like a new way you have to use that, which I think is cool.
Yeah, that's good. It's smart. Nice.
Yeah,
cool.
that's it. Oh, how about your oh my god words?
I just opened up Instagram, and the first thing I see is Animated Times news post, I guess, that says all the cringe scenes in Anyone But You are taken directly from William Shakespeare.
What? What cringe scenes are they referring to?
Oh, I don't know. Their sources letterboxed, so I don't know. How good of a source that is.
I wouldn't say this movie was like cringe. I think it's a rom-com. Like you want, like it fit what it is. You know what I mean? Like you don't go into a rom-com not expecting those kinds of like, you know, eye roll moments of like real life doesn't happen like this. This is such like a rom-com-y thing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing to just post without being specific. Anyway, just saw that come up, thought I'd mention it. Sorry, did you say what about me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot that's new this week. I'm still playing Final Fantasy and will continue playing Final Fantasy for what seems like forever. It's been out. It's been out about 3 weeks now, and I'm coming up on 30 hours. So I'll probably be playing it. Given that estimation, I'll probably be playing it for another 6 weeks. So not a lot I want to even say about it, given how much of it I will keep playing. But it's fantastic, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's I'm just, like I said last week, I love games that have a variety, and I think that's what appeals to me about the Princess Peach game, is that, it's just constantly giving you something new to do. Love games like that right now. That's, I think, either a game needs to be short, or if it's going to be long, it's got to be changing things up. So loving that right now. Loving that. And Princess Peach is short and changing things up.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah. I think the only real update I have is that I started watching on Hulu. I started watching Shogun, which I remember seeing the trailers and thinking like, oh, just another book that's getting adapted. We'll see how it is. But then all the reviews are like 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's like, this is the best show. It's like the new Game of Thrones. And I was like, okay. All right,
You sold me.
I'll watch the first episode if it's that good. Honestly, seeing all the great reviews got me just like excited. I was like, "Ooh, okay, cool."
You're such a hater.
I know.
For someone who's like another book adapted to movies, but have never read the books for any of them.
I know. It's like my dad's favorite book. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be the new dad show," which, it probably is, and that's great. I'm reaching that age, and this is the kind of stuff I like. So I'm really into it. I just watched the 3rd episode this morning, and the first episode I was like, okay, it hooked me, like this is pretty interesting. And then the 2nd episode, I was kind of like, all right, yeah, it's still pretty good. But then like the end of the 2nd episode got really like twisty and turny, or just like really interesting. So I was like, oh, okay, like let's see what's going on in the 3rd episode. And then the 3rd episode was, it had that, political twists and things like that. And now I'm just like, ooh, okay, can't wait to get caught up on Shogun every Tuesday. It's gonna be great. The next month of Shogun airing, I think it's going to be 10 episodes total, so it's expected to finish around the end of April, so it's not too late to get caught up. Highly recommend it. It is super good. Nice. Yeah, I think that's all I will say on it for now, without kind of diving into some of the specifics.
Nice.
Unless you'd like me to, but
no, don't spoil it.
Okay. Yeah, totally recommend it. It's the next big great show, at least for me. And we don't get a lot of those. I know Netflix is trying to do this whole 3-body problem thing.
Yeah, it keeps like the ads keep popping up on anytime I click on my thing.
I don't know. I'm not sold on it. Yeah. I know it's from like a really good book, and it's from the guys that directed Game of Thrones and all that. Maybe I'll watch the first episode to decide for myself, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't even watched a trailer or anything. I looked it up on IMDb. I saw like 7.6, and I said 7.6 is not high enough for me to dedicate my time to a show.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be at least an 8 on IMDb for me to like, I don't know, be jazzed about it. Anything that's like below an 8, that's a show that I watch, is just like a guilty pleasure,
Yeah, I don't really watch too many shows unless it's a show I can binge in one day. Because the only show I don't binge in one day because I just can't is Abbott Elementary. But that's like usually I am behind like 4 episodes, and then I binge those 4 episodes on like a Sunday morning while I work or something. But yeah, shows, I'm like, I don't know. It needs to be something that's super fast to consume because I just don't want to spend the time to spread it out, I guess.
Yeah. I finished Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I thought was pretty good. I think I looked that up on IMDb, and it's like it might be like a 6 point something, which I don't think it's that bad,
No.
but I also kind of realized that it's not that great.
No, but
but it's like simple and fun, and you can watch it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and considering what it came from, like it was like, oh, that was an interesting take on something that already existed.
Yeah, I think for me, because it's not overly complicated, that I was willing to like sit down and just kind of watch it, and then I'll probably forget about it, but it was a nice thing to be watching while I was watching it. But then like Three Body Problem, it just the title, it sounds too complicated.
Sounds like parabolic calculus
right
to me.
exactly it sounds too complicated for me to indulge in if it's only got a 7.6. If it had like an 8.7, I'd be like, ooh, okay, interesting.
I still wouldn't. It doesn't seem like something I'd be interested in.
Maybe I should watch the first episode.
Go right ahead.
Those are all my updates for the week.
Cool. My allergies.
Shall we go ahead and dive into it?
Yeah.
I
think you're first.
Are you sure?
Or am I first?
I'm first talking about your thing because last week we talked about Digimon first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this week I was assigned a movie called Wanderlust, which it came out in 2012. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. All right. So Wanderlust stars Paul Rudd and Jennifer Aniston. They play a couple that is living in New York City. He works for a company. She can't quite decide what she wants to do, but her current thing is documentary filmmaking. So he one day decides, no, they get this like really expensive small apartment and
a micro loft.
A micro loft, yeah, but it's a studio apartment. And he suddenly, his company like goes under because the FBI is investigating his boss or something. And then she has a pitch for her super depressing penguin documentary. That part was pretty funny.
It was very funny.
Like it gets like really intense.
Yeah.
Where she's like pitching it to HBO.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we like intense but sexy, and penguins dying is not sexy. Yeah, that part was pretty good. So her thing falls through, his job falls through, so they are forced to move in with his brother, and they live in Atlanta, and he's like he is a porta potty. He is a porta potty salesman, basically.
Porta Johns.
Yeah. So on their way to go move in with him, they stop at a commune, or what is known as an intentional community, I think they called it. And they kind of like fall in love with this free living lifestyle of this community when they're staying there for one night, but then the next day they leave. And when they make it to the brother's house, they realize that his brother's family totally sucks. So they decide, let's go back to the commune, and there's just a variety of characters there, and we'll just kind of live freely, man. And as they move in there, they spend some time there, they start to open up about the free living that the commune affords, which comes to include open relationships. And because one of the young female commune livers made a pass at Paul Rudd, he and his wife start talking about this idea of like sleeping with other people and stuff like that. And so they eventually decide to go for it. And then Jennifer Aniston sleeps with the like de facto leader guy, who's this guy named Seth, who's just like he's a tool, honestly. Yeah. It's an intense word for this podcast.
Wait, can I make just a clarifying statement just so it's clear about the open relationship thing? Because the way you described it made it sound like Paul Rudd was like, hey, I want to sleep with her. Can we do it? And that's not how it went down.
And that's kind of how it went down.
No. What happened is Paul Rudd starts to not want to be there. He's like, I want to just get a job and let's go back to New York.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yeah, but Jennifer Aniston really wants to be there. And so he's like, like, you just want to do this right now because you're having fun, but like, you don't really like to stick to things. He was like, can you do the whole open relationship thing? Because that's what you have to do when you're here. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. He's like, really? You want to do an open relationship?
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
And she's like, yeah. And so then that's when he's like, okay.
Yeah, so they decide to go for it. Then Jennifer Aniston immediately sleeps with Seth, and it causes Paul Rudd to freak out. And then he tries to sleep with that woman that made a pass at him like that night, which... yeah, this is the best part of the movie, as you put it. You said best Paul Rudd performance going into this movie. And you know what? Did not disappoint. He has to hype himself up in the mirror to like go sleep with this woman. And he says a whole lot of stuff I can't repeat here. Yeah. But it's just very vulgar, like trying to be sexy language where he's just kind of being dumb.
That's so silly.
Think of like in I Love You Man when him and Jason Segel were talking about like slapping the bass, and he's like slapping the bass. It's like that, but for terms relating to his genitalia. And it's just a good time. It's a very hilarious scene watching. It's just and him in a mirror.
Yeah, and even like following that when he's actually in front of the girl and he's trying to like not throw up because he's so scared and nervous, and he like doesn't want to do it. Like, he just feels like he has to do it. So yeah, it's quite hilarious.
So yeah, he doesn't go through with it, and then Paul and Jen have a little bit of a fight. They confront, like, yeah, he just wants to go back to NYC. She just wants to stay there. So he kind of just leaves her there, and then eventually realizes that was an idiot move. But before that happens, we kind of realize, it's not all fun and games at the commune, because the casino wants to develop all of this land, and the original owner of the commune doesn't know what happened to the deed. But then de facto leader Seth finds it and decides he's going to sell it and start his own commune in Florida, and he sells it for $11,000, which is a whole lot of nothing, given how much land this was. Yeah, he's such an idiot. So, I mean, basically what happens from there is, like, Paul Rudd heads back. Everybody kind of catches wind that Seth is an idiot and sold them all out, and they kind of shut that down. And I don't know,
they end up keeping the land because one of the members of the commune ends up writing a book that was like a bestseller. Yeah. And so they end up making the money to keep the land and
and then they also realize that because the guy who actually owns the land is always talking about like the 6 other people that he bought the land with in like 1975, and every single time it comes up, he's
Joe
like,
Pulaski.
Yeah, Joe Pulaski.
What was the woman's name?
There was a lot of them. Yeah. And they realize he's like, they're all dead. And then at the end of the movie, it's very quickly like, well, he reached out to one of them. Turns out she was alive, and she still had a copy of the deed, so everything was all good. And actually, guess what? Everybody's alive. And here they all are. Yeah. Joe Pulaski. So that was funny. And everybody, makes up, and they're all good, and Paul and Jen are all good, and that's the movie.
Yep.
So I kind of had a gut feeling halfway through the movie that I've seen the movie Role Models, and there are like actors in the movie Role Models I haven't really seen in a lot of other stuff. And then I was seeing them in this movie, and I immediately was like, Paul Rudd's in both movies. This is probably from the same guy that directed Role Models. And I looked it up, and it was. And so this movie it does kind of feel like not the spiritual successor in a way to Role Models, because it was like Role Models came out and then it was there, and then it felt kind of like off kilter and slightly strange and different, and we just didn't really get anything like that. But turns out we did. It was Wanderlust, and turns out this guy also directed Wet Hot American Summer, which makes total sense in just kind of how weird it all is. Yeah. And I love Wet Hot American Summer.
Me too. Yeah. This guy, he puts references. He puts like a song reference in this movie that was in Role Models. And then like there's like a name. It's like, how Adam Sandler always has that one name that gets said in like every one of Adam Sandler's movies referring to a character.
Like Callahan's Auto Parts.
Yeah. So this guy, I think it was called like, the name is like Jim something with an S, and like that name is in every one of his movies. And so I think in this movie it like he like receives a business card or whatever and it has that name on it. So there's like threads from this movie that connect to, you know, this director's other bodies of work.
Oh, I love it when directors do that. Like in what we're going to talk about after this. So this movie, Wanderlust, is, I mean, it was funny, you know, like it's kind of a nothing burger of a movie. Like there's really not a lot going on.
I like that nothing burger. That's cute.
Yeah. It's like, it's just like funny things happen that don't move the plot forward.
Yeah.
The plot just kind of stays there through the whole middle section of the movie to just allow funny things to happen, which is fine. It's not, you know, I prefer my comedies to be a bit more intentional.
Yeah.
But
more substance.
With more substance, yeah. But like that's fine. It was funny. But I think it kind of speaks to why the movie didn't really appeal to me when it was coming out and why I didn't watch it until 12 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. So for context, like how I found this movie, which I think I've mentioned this before in previous episodes, but like I was very big into like these comedians when I was in like high school. And so what I would do is I would pick a person, I would go through their whole IMDb list and just like pick out the comedies from it. And so Paul Rudd was one of those people because I absolutely love Paul Rudd. And so I started going down kind of his IMDb page and watching the movies that I hadn't seen yet. Especially, I loved the most obscure movies, like anything I could find. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Hall Pass with Owen Wilson, and
I actually haven't seen it, but I know that movie.
It's horrible. I don't recommend it, but it's a very just like weird comedy, and you're like, what did I just see?
My friend in high school used to reference it all the time. She referenced it.
Yeah, it's a mess of a movie.
Yeah.
But like movies like that where it's like no one really like watched these movies, but they were made. And so yeah, I came across Wanderlust, and after seeing that Paul Rudd scene, I was like, I have to tell everyone I know about this. The movie is not great, but you have to see this scene. And I remember telling my best friend about it, and she was dying. She was like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. So yeah, not a great movie, but like for one of those kind of like obscure, nonsensical comedies, it's pretty decent.
Yeah. I will say though that like we don't really get these anymore, and I think there's kind of a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like This Is the End came out in 2013, and then that was kind of just like, well, for lack of a better way of putting it, like the end of kind of that era of comedies from that I feel like we got from Superbad to This Is the End. There was just like,
I love it starts with Seth Rogen and it ends with Seth Rogen.
Yeah, it's just like all these Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd and
that whole Judd Apatow group.
The Apatow League.
Literally, they're their own cinematic universe.
Right. And then, you know, Jonah Hill became like an Oscar-nominated person, and and then, you know, Seth Rogen started doing a lot more like writing and directing and producing behind the scenes, and Paul Rudd then went to go do like Ant-Man. So everybody kind of like goes their own way after that. Yeah. So, but I mean, I would say I would. This isn't exactly an Apatow film, but it is.
He produced it.
Oh, never mind. All right, count it. Yeah, no, it's just like it feels like they were like the backbone of theatrically released comedies for like that whole portion of time, and then we just got like nothing. And then now I guess rom-coms are kind of coming back in the past like 5 years.
Yeah, they're starting to.
I think honestly, I feel like Crazy Rich Asians kind of brought it back
for sure.
As like a good movie, like a rom-com can be good.
Yeah.
But there was like a 5-year gap where it was just like nothing.
Yeah, no, but I think a lot of these rom-coms, they're all based on books. So I think it doesn't feel like there's any new stories being told. It's like, all right, we're bringing back rom-coms.
What about Anyone But You?
I think that's based on a book.
Shakespeare?
I don't think it's Shakespeare, but I think it's based on the book. I don't know. I could be wrong, but yeah. So I think that's the starting point. Is like, all right, well, let's just adapt some of these books that we know people like, and then I don't know, maybe there will be like a whole renaissance where original rom-com stories start getting made. But it's like, I don't know, rom-coms. It's like it's such a genre that follows such specific tropes that I feel like it's hard to make something kind of unique and original.
Well, I think like now that we're in the streaming era, it's all just kind of straight to streaming.
Yeah.
I liked Always Be My Maybe. I don't know. I liked it.
It wasn't as funny as I wanted it to be.
I feel like, whatever. I liked it. Keanu Reeves had a great cameo in that movie.
Oh my gosh, it was weird. But yeah.
Any facts on this movie?
Okay, I only have 2 facts and I have some questions for you.
Yeah, go for it.
I do want to just let you know, in case you didn't know, I feel like it's pretty clear to tell, but that mirror scene is completely improvised.
Yeah. As it should be.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts, so like at the end they have, like bloopers. And one of my favorite parts is in the bloopers is he's, doing that scene and he says something and he's like, I just grossed myself out. And I'm like, oh, what a sweet man. So the only other fact, and this is such a weird one, and it made me just like think about how weird we as a culture are. So there was a lot of talk when this movie was being made and was about to come out about Jennifer Aniston potentially doing her first like visibly nude scene. And so...
Well, didn't she do that in the breakup?
So she has like a nude scene, but they say it's so blurry and she's so like in the background that you don't see anything really. Like it's...
In
like,
the breakup?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they were like, this is going to be her first movie where like you see her naked, like you see her like her. So basically what the scene is they're doing like they're protesting the casino like breaking ground on their land, and so she like rips off her shirt and she's like on the news topless. So there was like talk of like we're gonna see her breasts,
which you don't.
So in the final cut, it gets blurred out.
Because it's on TV.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk about like well, what happened? Like, how come it got blurred out? And some people were like, well, she started dating Justin Theroux, and so she didn't want to, have her chest out there when she's dating this guy. And then other people were saying much more problematic things of like, well, she didn't like the way her breasts look, so she didn't want it seen. But her publicist was like, this was never supposed to, like, it was never going to happen. We just, like, everyone just said it to get publicity for this movie that they didn't think would do well.
Yeah.
I'm like, what this whole...
I mean, if I was Jennifer Aniston, I would not go topless for this movie. I wouldn't have this movie be the one,
Right. But like this whole debate, I'm like, what is wrong with people? Like, why are we so obsessed with Jennifer Aniston? Because like that, I just never really understood.
She's America's girlfriend.
Literally. I'm like, what is up with everyone being so obsessed with this? And also, who cares whether she chooses to like show her body or not? Like, why is this everyone like, oh my gosh, Jennifer Aniston's gonna be topless, we need to see it,
Okay, I mean, you can say who cares, but like I am not surprised. I mean, like, you can't... I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be shocked that people acted that way.
I'm not shocked. But that's why it's just, like, it's so weird to me. I just don't understand the Jennifer Aniston, like, craze. I mean, I watched Friends. Like, yeah, she was a cool character in that. But at the end of the day, to me, Jennifer Aniston's, like, pretty bland. No offense to Jennifer Aniston.
All right, I will speak from my experience.
Yeah.
When I was in, I want to say, the 9th grade,
mm-hmm.
my girlfriend at the time lent me the 6th season Friends DVD box set.
Yeah.
And I spent a whole weekend just watching it. And by the end of that weekend, I was in love with Jennifer Aniston. And I was, 15.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that makes sense. As a 15-year-old, she's very charming. Like, she, was like the cool girl in that show. But still, I'm like, why are we still obsessed with Jennifer Aniston? Like, past Friends, why is Jennifer Aniston such, like, an iconic person.
I mean,
because if you look at her actual,
you like Jennifer Aniston. We watched Murder Mystery, and
I hate Murder Mystery.
Just go with it. You love Just Go With It.
I love Just Go With It. But that's what I'm saying. Like I enjoy Jennifer Aniston in a good rom-com.
I'm just saying, like, you know, going into this movie, I was like, it's that stupid Paul Rudd movie. But then I saw Jennifer Aniston was in it, and I was like,
it's been elevated.
This is a little bit better now because Jen Aniston's in it. Like I'm gonna enjoy this a little bit more because I love watching my Jennifer Aniston.
Oh my gosh, I'm just saying, you go through her IMDb page and there's not anything spectacular.
No, she's never been in anything great.
Yeah.
You know, she's not gonna win a Best Actress nomination anytime soon. We just enjoy having her in
she's
stuff.
A comfort, a comfort person.
Yeah,
I guess I get that.
That's what I mean. That's people watch Friends for the comfort.
Yeah.
So when we see Jennifer Aniston in things, we're like.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable again.
I guess, but I'm not, I love Jen Aniston. She's great. I enjoy her in these rom-coms. I'm not about to be salivating over whether that or not I'll see her chest,
Oh, no, I mean, me neither. It's not that, I mean, for some people it is about that, but for me, it's just like, she just brings a good vibe to the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Weird. Anyways, questions. Would you ever quit your job and join a commune?
Is my employer listening to this? No, I'm just kidding.
Hypothetical.
Yeah, it's all hypothetical. I mean, I will, every job brings its stressors, and that's just the nature of the beast. That's just working for a living, and we work our whole lives so that, we can retire and then not work. And so just like from a human perspective, I think, the idea of just not working anymore is always appealing. I mean, that's why we have the weekend, you know? So would I ever do it? Probably not. But the idea of it is, ooh, that would be great to take away all of my main stressors. But I think at a certain point, like we talk about if we won the lottery, we'd still want to be doing something. We wouldn't want to just be like doing leisure all the time, because then it doesn't feel like you've earned that leisure. I think in the case of like living on this commune, it seems like everybody kind of has their own like project or whatever that they and they interact with each other and have this like community. And that to me, I think, is a very appealing idea of having, everybody's got their own thing that they're working on, but then they're also like, enjoying life together. And that's a beautiful thing. I really like that. But would I actually do it? Probably not.
Yeah. I think for me, like, I can never join a commune because I'm very particular about the people I'm around in a living situation.
And cleanliness.
And all of that. So like this situation we see in the movie would probably be my personal nightmare. However, something that I would do is, I love the idea of like a family compound, if that makes sense, where it's your family members and you all have, your independent houses, but you're all living in like, kind of like if anyone watches Righteous Gemstones, how they like all have their own mansions like in the same little space and they have their own little community in that sort of sense. I do love that idea. And like that would be something that I'd be down to do. I
mean, I like the idea of, if I had infinite money in the world, I would get a giant compound and I would give all of the closest people in my life houses near me, and then we could have community events and that sounds fantastic. That's what we all would want out of life,
I know. I'm trying to convince my family. My family has been trying to we've been talking about getting like a family farm, and whenever the time is right to do that, and I'm trying to like set it up so that we can make money off the farm. I'm like, we need to have a wedding venue. Wedding venues are super expensive. It's a lucrative business. We set up a wedding venue. We all just live on the property. And we like help set like with these weddings, and I'm like, boom, we're set.
That sounds great. You're helping people celebrate this beautiful moment in their lives, and you get to live in a beautiful place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's do it. All right.
I'm down. Last question for you. What are your top 3 favorite Paul Rudd films? Go.
I Love You, Man. What's he in? Knocked Up, maybe. And there's I'm afraid to like name anything because I feel like I'm gonna forget something. Paul Rudd movies.
In all fairness, there's few that he's like the lead.
Yeah,
in.
he's not like Ant-Man is not.
I mean, that's obviously your number one.
No, that's not making the list. No. Like if Avengers Endgame counted, like favorite movies with him in it,
yeah,
Avengers Endgame, yeah. But like favorite Paul Rudd movies,
yeah.
I mean, I like Role Models,
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Wet Hot American Summer, but again, I don't know if I'd call that a Paul Rudd movie.
I mean, you can count it,
but it probably Role Models, Knocked Up, and I Love You, Man. I Love You, Man is by far my favorite Paul Rudd movie.
Really?
Like that's the one that comes to mind.
It's like probably one of my least favorites.
You've seen it once, so
that's not true. First of all, I own it on DVD. I've seen it at least 3 times.
Okay, well, do you remember anything?
Yeah, I literally just watched it like the other week, a month ago. Remember?
Okay, never mind. I mean, I Love You, Man. It's not the best movie. I recognize that, but I've just seen it so many times, and I could quote it, a million times. So I just have a soft spot.
Yeah, I think it's my least favorite Jason Segel performance. And like his performance kind of ruins the movie, or like I don't know, just his character ruins the movie for me.
I was just really big into Jason Segel at the time because I loved Forgetting Sarah Marshall so much,
movie.
and I had never seen Jason Segel in anything before watching that.
He's in Knocked Up.
Yeah, I know. But well, I mean, like I didn't know who he was in Knocked Up. When I watched Knocked Up again after watching Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I was like, oh my god, it's the Forgetting Sarah Marshall guy.
Yeah.
So when I discovered How I Met Your Mother, and that he was like a lead character in that, I was like, oh, and then I immediately got into How I Met Your Mother because I was anything that had Jason Segel in it, I was like,
I love him.
Yeah,
he's like a gentle giant.
So for Paul Rudd and Jason Segel to be in a movie together, I was like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, my top 3 favorite Paul Rudd movies: Knocked Up / This Is 40, since they're both in the same universe. One's just like a spinoff of the other. I put them both in there. Role Models is my number 2, and then if we're not going to count movies with Paul Rudd in it, then I can't count this one. But if we are, then I'm going to say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that doesn't. Yes, great movie. Ooh, I do like Anchorman. It's not a Paul Rudd movie, but he's pretty prominent. He's in the first 4 top billing, I'm sure.
I cannot get into Anchorman. I don't know what it is about those movies. I just can't do it.
I like Anchorman 1. It's just one of those movies you can quote with your friends.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that it's funny, even though I do think it is funny. Mm-hmm. It's some of these. It's just one of those things, like Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Like that you can just quote with other people because other people have seen it, and it's just like Hot Rod, for example. Hot Rod, not the best movie, but tons of quotable lines if your friends have seen it,
Yeah.
And that just makes that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Cool. That's all I've got.
Nice. Apparently, Paul Rudd was in Romeo plus Juliet.
Was he like a cousin?
Oh, I think he was. No, I think he was.
I forgot.
He was like on the TV. He was like a famous person or something. I remember. He plays Dave Paris. Anyway.
Wait, was he supposed to like marry Claire Danes? But then she.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. 40-Year-Old Virgin is also technically a Paul Rudd movie.
I do love that movie.
That is a good movie.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a real good one. All right.
Man, he's been in so many movies.
I know, he's been in a lot.
He was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, like that would be up there.
You sound like you're from London.
Yeah. Like peep-pee-opie. He was also on Friends. Look at that.
I know, he was Phoebe's like husband or whatever.
Boyfriend by the end of the show.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I was assigned Dogma. When did this come out?
1999.
Wow.
Okay.
So basically, this movie is about two angels named Loki and Bartleby, played by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. For some reason in my notes, it's spelled Den. Den Affleck.
Dan Affleck.
And they're trying to make their way back to heaven after being cast out by God and sent to Wisconsin for punishment. But they end up finding this loophole in the rules of Catholicism that basically allows them to get back into heaven if they attend this event at a church in New Jersey. And then they have to like do some things there. However, their re-entry back into heaven means that God is not infallible. And because of this, everything we know would cease to exist. So a woman named Bethany is told by God's messenger named Alan Rickman. Played by Alan Rickman.
Named the Metatron.
Yeah, played by Alan Rickman. And he tells her that she needs to stop them from entering the church and will have help from others along the way. So Bethany eventually, hesitantly takes on the mission and ends up receiving help from two prophets, which happen to be Jay and Silent Bob, an apostle, which is Chris Rock, and a muse, which is Salma Hayek. And by the end of the movie, they successfully, prevent Matt Damon and Ben Affleck from going into the church and getting into heaven. And yeah, God rewards Bethany by letting her become pregnant because she could not become pregnant.
Yeah. She's also like the great times affinity
daughter,
niece
of
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So yeah. I did not know what this movie was gonna be.
I know. I really tried to make you as blind to what this movie was as possible because I felt like that would really heighten the experience for you.
It did. It definitely did. And I thought this was gonna be a serious movie when you assigned it because it just sounds like a serious movie, And then we saw Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and I was like, okay, sure. And then as soon as Alan Rickman was like, you're gonna get help from two people, one's pretty quiet and the other one doesn't stop talking, I was like, Jay and Silent Bob are about to pop up. Oh my gosh. I was like, all right, you have me, you got me. I'm sucked in. And I absolutely loved it. Yeah, it was such a good movie.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, I was like, she cannot know that Jay and Silent Bob are in this movie. We have to just start it, and she's gonna be like, "What is this religion movie?"
Yeah.
And then Jay and Silent Bob are gonna get there, and she's gonna have a blast.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell with the tone of just Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, because they've done Good Will Hunting, and that's a pretty serious movie. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I don't know where this is going. It could go either way. And yeah, as soon as I predicted Jay and Silent Bob were popping up, I was like, all right, we're in for a ride. Let's do it. I'm hooked. So yeah, this movie was hilarious. I grew up Catholic, and I say grow up Catholic loosely because me and my parents, we didn't really go to church regularly. My grandma very much so did. Every Sunday she was at church. But we kind of went on holidays. But I did, I had my first communion. I did the whole, Bible study classes, so that you can eventually accept the body and the blood of Christ and everything like that. So, some of the, things that they talk about with, Catholicism, it's okay, yeah, I remember that kind of stuff. But then I also was like, I don't know a lot about religion. And I said, we didn't, practice Catholicism hardcore. So I was worried. I was like, are things going to go over my head? Because I just, don't, I don't remember the stories. I've read, some of the Bible. I've never read the Bible's huge,
Yeah.
I've never read all the stories. So yeah, I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to understand everything, but I think they do a great job of explaining it all. And yeah, talking about the stories. And then they also, it's fun because, Chris Rock comes and he's like, Jesus is black. We know that. And then Salma Hayek comes and is like, God is a woman. And it's I don't know. I just loved all of those moments of everything we know about the Bible is wrong. And here's how it actually is. I thought that was really fun. I don't know that others appreciate it, but I did.
Yeah. I didn't really, when I first saw this movie, I think I was 10 years old, and I do not understand it, but I understood like Jay and Silent Bob are in this like weird religious movie with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I understood that, and I was like, how strange.
Yeah.
And I hadn't rewatched it since then. So I kind of was like, I remember Matt Damon and Ben Affleck being kind of a nuisance, and I remember Jay and Silent Bob just like being there, and I'm like, we should watch that.
Yeah, it's, oh my god, Jay has this. Yeah, Jay has. I was like, which one's Jay? Which one's Silent Bob? Never mind. It says Silent Bob.
Yeah.
But Jay has this moment. So the main character, Bethany, she works in an abortion clinic, and Jay has this moment where he says, you know, they're both them, him and Silent Bob, like find her at the clinic, and she's like, what are you all even doing here? And Jay is like,
oh
yeah, and Jay's like, I support pro-choice, like a woman should be able to do.
She's wondering if they're protesters.
Yes, she asked if they're protesters. He's like, no, I'm pro-choice. Like, a woman should be able to do whatever she wants with her body. And you're like, yeah, right on. And then he's like, but we're here because, like, these women are probably loose. And so, like, one of them will want to, like, hook up with us. And I was like, Jay, no! I was like, oh, my gosh. And like they were just like so silly, and their characters, it's kind of hard to like, you're kind of like just like, why are they there? Like what makes them prophets, you know?
Yeah.
That was a hard part for me. It was just like
it's because the movie's directed and written by Kevin Smith, and Kevin Smith plays Silent Bob, and all of his movies kind of take place in this shared universe.
Yeah.
And so he saw an opportunity to put Jay and Silent Bob in the movie, and he took it.
I mean, I'm glad they were there because it was funny, but at the same time, I was like, they serve no point,
right?
Like, no purpose in this plot. Everyone else, it makes sense why they're here.
It's like, let's just stick the Mario and Luigi of comedy in here, and
yeah, it was silly.
Any other thoughts?
No, I mean, it was weird. It was quirky. It was like interesting, kind of thought provoking at times, like especially like Ben Affleck's character. He starts saying like a lot about religion, and you're kind of just like, interesting take on things.
Yeah, it does kind of, it has there's a big disclaimer at the beginning of the movie to be like, hey, please don't get upset. It's very clear within 10 minutes of the movie that this is all a joke. So, yeah, please don't get mad at anybody or try to do anything crazy over this movie.
Yeah.
Which, well, we'll get into it. Nothing bad happened or anything like that. But, yeah, of course, there were certain groups that were unhappy with this movie. So, to just kind of start with some facts, I'll just kind of run down the list. So Kevin Smith had heard that so Kevin Smith's his movie universe up until this point, it was like Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and then Dogma. So at the end of Clerks, there's a thing that says Jay and Silent Bob will return in Dogma, and apparently he had written the script for Dogma before he even did Clerks, but he wanted to wait to become a better filmmaker and just get more experience using visual effects before making Dogma. So that's why he did Mallrats and Chasing Amy first. So Kevin Smith heard that Alan Rickman was a fan of Chasing Amy. So they asked him to play Metatron, and apparently Alan Rickman read the script and came back with two questions, which were, one, would they stay faithful to the script? And two, were the wings real or CGI? And I guess they gave him the right answer on both of those. And Alan Rickman said, I'm in. Which,
so
like,
specific.
It's so wild that Alan Rickman is in this movie because it feels like so silly for him.
Yeah.
Given what we know about him.
Great.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Right.
And I will say, I felt like he had the most, like, his character had a lot of heart. At the beginning, he's like super silly, but then like at the end, he like, he gives a good pep talk, and it's like, that's nice.
Yeah. The interesting little detail is that all of the characters that are angels in the movie, so Metatron, Bartleby, and Loki, they're all wearing hoods, and that's supposed to like, or they're all wearing clothes that have hoods. They're not wearing hoods, but it's meant to like represent their halos.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Kevin Smith apparently, so like we talked about it when we watched Jay and Silent Bob, that Jason Mewes, who plays Jay in these movies, like he struggled with substance abuse for a long time, and he's like since cleaned up now, and things are all good between him and Kevin as well. But he was apparently using a lot of heroin during the filming of this movie, where you can kind of see in specific scenes where it's like wide shots that he's kind of like falling asleep in the shot. So that was Kevin got pretty upset with him throughout the filming of this movie. But apparently also Jason Mewes had memorized the entire script before rehearsals because Kevin Smith told him that he had to be on his best behavior and bring his A game to the set because he didn't want to anger Alan Rickman.
Get it together for Alan Rickman.
Yeah, it's like, dude, we got Alan Rickman for this movie, all right? I need you to be on your A game.
Oh my gosh, but to memorize that whole script,
yeah.
how do you, especially if you're, taking substances, how do you remember the script?
Hey, I don't know.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got it done.
Yeah.
So Alan Rickman, apparently, so there's a scene where when Alan Rickman's character, the Metatron, is having his first conversation with Bethany, in order to kind of prove to her that he's an angel, he transports her to a Mexican restaurant down the street where they're having tequila, and he's got like maracas and stuff. Apparently Alan Rickman, when they filmed that scene, was holding onto the maracas all day long and kept shaking them, and it drove everybody crazy the whole day.
Oh, Alan Rickman.
I know, right?
That goof.
Also, okay, so Linda Fiorentino plays Bethany in this movie. Apparently, her and Kevin Smith did not get along very well while filming this movie. He said that some days she wouldn't even speak to him, and that he later said that he would have preferred to have offered the role to Janine Garofalo instead, which like she's briefly in the movie. And apparently when filming stopped, they didn't really speak to each other. But then after Kevin Smith had a heart attack in 2018, because I think he was just struggling with being overweight, and he got after that he got really healthy and stuff. But some people that he hadn't spoken to in a long time reached out, and she was one of them, and they got to have a conversation, and he said that he was thankful to hear from her, and it gave him a chance to say that he was sorry that he ever said that he wished he had cast Janine Garofalo instead, and he said the experience gave him a chance to make amends. So that was his favorite one, his favorite amend.
It's so hard to wrap my brain around who he might be as a person, because I only know him as Silent Bob, who says no words and is such a sweetheart in his actions.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't know anything about this man because he's just Silent Bob.
Yeah, I love Kevin Smith. He's such a nerd. He's a big comic book guy. He's such a movie guy. I mean, he's a director and writer, so he ought to be. But he's just very. When I watched a lot of Screen Junkies, people that do honest trailers, and they used to do movie fights, which was just debates on different topics. Like people would be competing they'd be who's the best fictional character to take your daughter to, or to chaperone your daughter at, prom or something like that, and they got to make an argument for Wolverine would be the best, I think the guy that won the argument said Falcor from the Neverending Story would be the best person to chaperone your daughter, which I totally agree with. But anyway, so Kevin Smith used to participate on that and stuff. So He's just a cool nerd guy. He's here for the nerds, and he's one of us. So yeah, I mean, I really like Kevin Smith. He actually owns a comic book store in Red Bank, New Jersey, where they keep in the movie, at the beginning of the movie, the Cardinal Glick, played by George Carlin, famous comedian who's also famously atheist, and a huge critic of religion. His character, Cardinal Glick, is like, in order to make Catholicism more appealing to people, we're doing away with the crucifix because it's too depressing, and here is like our new image for Christ, and it's like that. You've maybe seen this image on the internet. It's like Jesus like pointing with finger guns and like winking, and they call it Buddy Christ. So apparently at Kevin Smith's comic book store called Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, they sell replicas of the statue, and the original statue is on display, but the replicas of the statue is apparently one of the biggest selling items at their shop. That's funny.
Do they have like the Jay and Silent Bob comics?
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there were some protesters of this movie, specifically the Catholic League, protested this movie, and unbeknownst to some protesters, Kevin Smith saw a protest out for his film, and he actually snuck his way into the protest because nobody recognized him. They didn't know that he was the director of the movie, and he got interviewed on the news.
Oh my gosh. What did he say?
He said they asked about his thoughts on the movie, and he said, like, I don't know, but I've been told not good. and he said, like, but I kind of like Kevin Smith's first film. I looked it up on YouTube. You can find it. And he's and the TV people, like, I think when they interviewed him, they didn't know it was him. But the TV people, like, when they're presenting the story, they're like, this man, he looks an awful lot like Kevin Smith, claims to not be him. And he's like, yeah, man, I heard the movie's not good.
That's like, I mean, honestly though, if I saw him on the street, I probably wouldn't like immediately be like, hey, that's Kevin. Like, I would probably just be like, that's just some other man, you know?
Right. The thing is, Kevin Smith is Catholic. He was raised Roman Catholic. He still considers himself Catholic, and he thanks God in the end credits of the movie. And that explains why the movie is so informed on Catholicism. But yeah, he's not. It's
like a Book of Mormon situation.
Yeah,
because wasn't that written by a guy who's Mormon?
I don't know a lot about Book of Mormon.
I think it was written by a guy who is Mormon, which is why it's like, or if not, I've heard from like a lot of people that like people who are Mormon enjoy it because it's like, it's got, even though it's comedy, it's like got truth to it. It's like, oh yeah, that's a thing, you know?
So, well, I understood that Trey Parker and Matt Stone were involved with the Book of Mormon, which is, they're the guys that created South Park.
Hold on. Okay. Well, then maybe it's not.
But I have heard that, like, yeah, people love, people who are Mormon do seem to enjoy the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Anyway, while you look that up, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Apparently, in the opening sequence of the movie at the airport, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are revealed as characters, and Ben Affleck's sitting in the at the gate in the airport. Apparently, a couple of seats away from him is Gwyneth Paltrow. You don't see her, but it's her because Ben Affleck had just invited her to the set that day. Just like as a friendly, hey, come visit.
Wow.
So also, apparently due to the controversy surrounding the movie at the time, Disney, who was originally supposed to distribute this movie, which is interesting that they were ever attached to be doing that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They were having doubts about releasing the film, at which point Harvey Weinstein personally bought the distribution rights, and he owned Miramax, but they distributed the film through Lionsgate. And it was the highest grossing Lionsgate film until Crash came out. But interestingly, because the distribution rights are personally owned by the Weinsteins, like they have not, this movie hasn't been legally distributed since like 2008. And then because Harvey Weinstein was sentenced to prison, it's just kind of like when I looked up on Just Watch, it was like not available on any of your streaming platforms. And I was like, oh crap, like this is going to be tough to find. But then apparently it just gets uploaded fully to YouTube every once in a while. And that's how we watched it. We watched like the whole thing, like 4K HD on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, YouTube.
Yeah, thanks, YouTube. And that's it. Those are all the facts that I wrote down.
Gotcha.
It's a great movie.
It is. It is a great movie.
It's
it doesn't surprise me that there were protests.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It was a fun time.
Yeah, it's just a very different movie. It's like just not a movie that you would have expect to have ever gotten made. And then when you like see it and you're like, what, Jay and Silent Bob are here too? It's like, oh, fantastic. Yeah.
I just like want to relive that moment of when I was like, is Jay and Silent Bob about to pop up?
Right.
And then like before we
I just kind of like laughed like, oh, what a silly idea. But then they pop up.
I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually gonna pop up. That's hilarious. I would recommend this to anyone. I thought it was great.
So you want to get into assignments?
Sounds good.
All right.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So you told me after we watched Wanderlust, you were like, give me a good movie. Because apparently all the movies I give are trash, which is fair because those are the kinds of movies that I love. But I am going to give you a good movie this time. I think it's good. And that is going to be My Cousin Vinny with Joe Pesci.
Oh, okay. Yeah, never seen it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a Ralph Macchio movie, right?
I don't know.
He's the one that's like, hey, we got to get My Cousin Vinny. The Karate Kid, right?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay.
It's been a really long time since I've seen this movie.
I'm pretty sure it is. Okay. When was that movie made?
1992.
Okay. When I think about that movie.
Yes, you're right. He's in it.
When I think about that movie, it's kind of got like a certain aesthetic to it. Like it's a certain type of old that you see. And because I'm stuck between three movies.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of one of them in particular, but it's not. All right, let me just ask you: Do you want like a good science-y movie from the late '90s? Do you want like an animated stop motion movie that's pretty good but underappreciated, or do you want a Jackie Chan movie?
Oh, okay. Let me think of what we've had recently. You said stop motion. Interesting. Huh.
I kind of want to
save that one.
Yeah, I don't think that'll go well with this at all.
All right. You said a Jackie Chan movie or a
science-y late 90s movie. I'm kind of leaning towards the Jackie Chan movie right now.
Then go with that.
All right. Police Story.
I've seen that.
No, you haven't.
Haven't I?
No, you haven't.
Oh.
I know you've been wanting me to give you Police Story. You've been expecting me to give you Police Story. Can you tell me what it's about? Can you tell me anything about it?
I think I'm getting it mixed up with Rumble in the Bronx.
Which we already did.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 years ago, I might add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, because this has Michelle Yeoh in it, right?
No, it doesn't.
Hold on.
No, Police Story is like Jackie Chan's. It's kind of like his first movie that put him on the map in Hong Kong. Yeah. I mean, it's not like his first movie. He's like, but it's the quintessential Jackie Chan movie.
Okay.
I like when it's the one that you point to as like being the top dog in his filmography.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I would say like authentic top dog, not like Rush Hour, you know.
Rush Hour is great.
Okay, Rush Hour is great, but it's like It's like, what's
problematic, but great.
Yeah, but like if you go look up a list of like top 10 Jackie Chan movies, Police Story's either number 1 or number 2, you know?
Got you. Okay, cool.
Sweet. All right. So then next week we will have Police Story and My Cousin Vinny. That'll be good.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Content Swap podcast, where it seems like the through line was directors who like to sneak references to their other movies into their movies.
Yep.
We'll see you next time for Police Story and My Cousin Vinny, and we hope you have a great week, and go watch Shogun on Hulu. All right. Bye.
Bye.